Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Example, here to do my day job and my time off and to talk about what happens when you mix anime with Shakespeare. Of course, since there's obviously a lot to get into here, let's dive right in and have a good time of it, shall we? Well, first things first, let me just start off by saying for anyone new to the channel that anime is basically my favorite thing that exists. Yeah, obviously. Suffice it to say, I've been obsessed with anime for all of my life pretty much, and I also work primarily with anime in my day job, doing media journalism, as many of you guys know. I even did a lot of anime assessments while studying critical analysis and literary theory in college, which I still do to this day. And another thing I studied a lot? Well, Shakespeare, of course. And I do love Shakespeare too. Of course I do. It's hard not to. In fact, you know who else loves Shakespeare? Everyone. Everyone in the world. Literally. Everyone, across all cultures and nations, everywhere on the planet, all major societies have enjoyed the bard's work to some degree or another. His material has been translated into every major language a dozen times, as befits the greatest writer in human history. And of course, by extension, every ethnic group has cherished and retold, often reimagined, his classic dramas. This is called global Shakespeare, and since anime is pretty much what we care about most on this channel, all that really matters is that global Shakespeare is a genre where anime and the greatest technical writer who ever lived can meet, and the two series we're going to be examining today, Zetsuen no Tempest and Nisekoi, are basically what happens when Shakespeare does meet anime. Let's take a look at the results. Starting with Zetsuen no Tempest, or Blast of Tempest if you live in the West, that is. But this most prominent example of global Shakespeare, Zetsuen no Tempest, is perhaps also the most interesting cultural reimagining of the bard's work. Not in the least, because over the course of two distinct acts, spread out across a 24-episode season, Zetsuen no Tempest retells not one of Shakespeare's stories, but two of his plays. That's right. As I'm sure you've no doubt put together by now, Zetsuen no Tempest is a retelling of The Tempest. At least ostensibly it is, but in point of fact, Zetsuen no Tempest isn't actually the Tempest story at all. It's primarily the Hamlet story. Yeah, more specifically, I guess, it's the Hamlet story fused to the story of The Tempest in such a way that allows both the full story of Hamlet and the full story of The Tempest to be seamlessly told, with minor alterations, of course. So, let's take a look at some of these characters, shall we? We follow the protagonist, Mahito Fua, the son of a wealthy and powerful businessman, the most powerful in all Japan. He's our Prince Hamlet analog, basically. A brilliant and charismatic, if lascivious and manipulative hero who is prone to abandoning all morality and reason for the sake of enacting his revenge. Sounds familiar, right? Also along for the ride is Yoshino Takigawa, our Horatio, and later also our Ariel, who serves as the magician's primary source of information. The rest of the cast is fleshed out by Aika Fua, based on Sycorax from The Tempest, and also on Ophelia. Like I said, double roles here. And finally, Hakaze Kusaribe, our Prospero. And, well, despite the fact that she's a woman in this version, which I like a lot better, by the way, she is as much a noble with insane magical powers as her inspiration was, if not more. And she, too, finds herself stranded on a mostly deserted island by an act of treachery. And I mean, that's not even what's really important anyway. What really matters is the way this story seamlessly blends Hamlet and The Tempest. It's honestly breathtaking. Honestly, it's by far the most original adaptation of Shakespeare's work I've ever seen, to say the least, and the characters somehow manage to be exact carbon copies of their counterparts in classic Shakespeare, while also coming off as distinct and unique, which of course they are, being reinterpreted through the anime format in the anime medium. Naturally, it of course doesn't hurt either that every character, to the last, from start to finish, is awfully prone to quoting their lines from Hamlet and The Tempest every chance they get, which I also adore completely. Now, as you can see, this is both an adaptation of Shakespeare and an anime series. These timeless stories Zetsuen no Tempest draws inspiration from are there in all their glory, too. Only the action is shown to us through the Japanese entertainment media lens and through anime as a medium. Yeah, you notice how every character is drop dead gorgeous? That's entirely typical of anime, and it's very much not typical of Shakespeare, which is part and parcel of why global Shakespeare is such a fascinating thing. Seeing as this is an anime adaptation, every character is beautiful. That's how it works in anime. And all the old or ugly characters just have to get redesigned and reimagined so that their roles are filled by beautiful people. Prospero, the old sorcerer, becomes Hikaze, the gorgeous young sorceress. And, well, suffice it to say, you're not going to hear me complaining. This trend also holds true throughout our next adaptation, as it does in every anime. So let's move right along. We're going to talk about Nisekoi next. Or, I suppose I should say, we're going to talk about Romeo and Juliet next, because that's what this is. Well, it's Romeo and Juliet as performed by modern Japanese young adults living in a very real world who are forced to contend with all of the modern struggles of youth as their perilous, dangerous love story unfolds around them. Meet Raku, our Romeo. He's a popular and charismatic young man in the exact vein of his likeness. But instead of the Montagues, we have the Ichijos. They're Japan's foremost Yakuza family, essentially the most powerful underground mafia in the nation. Chitoge Kirisaki, his Juliet, is the unspeakably beautiful, obviously, and very tempting daughter of a family of notorious aristocratic gangsters, on the other hand. And these two families appropriately disdain each other, as of course you'll know if you're familiar at all with the story of Romeo and Juliet, which I know you are. Everyone knows the story of Romeo and Juliet, right? Everyone. Even Raku and Chitoge, notably, not to mention all of the Nisekoi characters. And, I mean, just look at this. Look at this. Raku and Chitoge even play the parts of Romeo and Juliet in a literal performance of the show at one point in the story. I mean, just look at that. Look at that and tell me it's not adorable. I mean, adorable and also brilliantly clever, that is. This whole plot device set piece where Raku and Chitoge assume the roles of Romeo and Juliet for a play, assuming the roles of the characters who inspired their own designs. It's such a clever meta-narrative homage to the obvious parallels between Nisekoi and Shakespeare's most famous love story. However, one thing that certainly isn't a parallel, the climactic tragic deaths of our star-crossed lovers, is actually omitted in this version. It's changed. And Raku and Chitoge don't die. They live on, in fact, into some facsimile of happily ever after, even. I mean, it really is happily ever after for these two. It's pretty much as far removed from the classic Romeo and Juliet ending as a story could possibly be. Not only do both of them live, Raku and Chitoge, they're both totally physically unscathed, and, I mean, they get a happily ever after. They get married and continue to love each other forever. Spoilers, I guess. Sorry about that. But, hey, spoilers or not, there is no tragedy in Nisekoi. It's simply not a tragic story. It's a love story, where all the conflict comes from character drama, romantic tension, and the threat of Raku and Chitoge's warring families, not the looming specter of death. Therefore, Nisekoi, just like Zetsuen no Tempest, shows us just how far an anime adaptation can stray from the original story's plot template while still drawing direct inspiration from it. Just think about how nuts that is, and it's only possible in the first place because of the framework of anime, the unique framework. And All that just goes to show you how versatile and liberated anime as a medium is. And that's one of the many reasons why anime has always been my favorite existing thing. Well, that's all I've got for you tonight, guys. I gotta say, I'm really happy with how these anime turned out, but then again, if you ask me, I'd say that anime is clearly the best narrative medium in the world for telling any kind of story, honestly. That complete creative freedom and unique cultural perspective, it just makes for so many possibilities. But as always, guys, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you on my next video. Try to catch you around then.